Welcome to my channel. Today we'll dive into The First Omen, 2024, a chilling tale that explores the rise of darkness and the battle between good and evil. Stay tuned as we uncover the haunting secrets behind this gripping story. The story begins with Father Brennan, who meets Father Harry in the confessional box at the renovated church. Father Harry shows Father Brennan a photo of a newborn baby and 3 church members, claiming that the photo is proof of what the church members had done. Written on the back of the photo was the word Scania. Father Harry explains that the church had conducted a ceremony where the church members forced a Catholic woman to have intercourse with the devil. The woman was terrified, and upon her encounter with the devil, she immediately became pregnant. The child born from this union is no ordinary child. While it may appear to be a regular baby, its origins are far from ordinary. During the confession, Father Harry is deeply disturbed, haunted by the screams of the woman and the horrifying sounds of the devil. Overcome with fear, Father Harry abruptly leaves the confession, unable to continue. But Father Brennan, seeking more answers, wants to know what exactly happened within the church. However, before Father Brennan could investigate further, Father Harry was tragically killed in the church due to a small incident. This incident occurs because the devil does not want anyone to stand in his way. The terrified look on Father Harry's face suggests he carried a great deal of guilt, as if he had committed numerous sins. In the Omen series, Father Brennan's death mirrors Father Harry's fate. Now the story shifts to Rome, where an American girl named Margaret is called for nun training. Here she meets Father Gabriel and Cardinal Lawrence. Upon meeting Margaret, Cardinal Lawrence is pleased, almost as if he had found his daughter. Margaret's background is revealed. She is an orphan, sent to the USA by the Cardinal due to her childhood experiences with terrifying voices and a connection to the devil. Meanwhile, protests erupt in the city, with many people identifying as atheists. Cardinal Lawrence believes that one day Margaret will bring the atheists back to the church. At the monastery, Margaret meets Sister Silva, who explains that their mission is to take care of children and help women who become mothers outside of marriage. It's during this time that Margaret encounters Sister Angelica. However, Sister Angelica doesn't seem pleased to meet Margaret, and her expression carries an unsettling silence and fear. Sister Silva tells Margaret that Angelica is very religious and has a great love for children. Margaret learns that Angelica had been abandoned as a baby, which could explain her strange behavior. Soon, Margaret meets a girl named Kalita Scania, whose room is filled with creepy drawings. Kalita has created these drawings herself, and Margaret sees a disturbing reflection of her childhood in Kalita's behavior. However, when Kalita licks Margaret, she is left confused, as such behavior is uncommon in religious places. Sister Silva tells Margaret that Kalita's behavior is abnormal compared to the other children, which is why she's been kept separate from the others. Despite Kalita being a child, her actions don't seem like those of a typical child, leaving Margaret deeply troubled. Before officially becoming a nun, Margaret shares a room with a girl named Lodge, as they both undergo nun training. While praying, Margaret experiences strange occurrences, signaling that she may be dealing with something far more sinister. Margaret has been struggling with her mental state due to her experiences with Lucifer. Despite this, she remains cheerful and enjoys life, as she knows that once she becomes a nun, she will no longer be able to enjoy such pleasures. Margaret quickly bonds with the children in the monastery, but she is especially concerned about Kalita. One night, Margaret notices that the nuns, including Angelica, are conducting strange rituals with Kalita, which deeply disturbs her. However, as she observes, Angelica laughs in a way that sends chills down Margaret's spine, and within her laugh, there seems to be the presence of the devil. Later, Lodge convinces Margaret to go out and enjoy herself before her final commitment to the nunnery. While at a club, Margaret meets a man named Polo, and after having a drink, she engages in a kiss with him, a kiss that is disturbingly similar to the one Kalita gave her. At that moment, Margaret becomes unconscious. The following day, Margaret wakes up in her flat, her face marked with a disturbing spider-like symbol representing the devil. She feels as though she crossed a line the previous night. Lodge reassures her that she prevented her from doing anything wrong, and she tells Margaret not to worry. Lodge promises that this secret will remain between them. Despite Lodge's reassurances, Margaret struggles to calm her troubled mind. She decides to leave the monastery to seek answers. On her way, she meets Father Brennan, who tells her that there are demonic activities around Scania. Margaret, shocked, recognizes the name Kalita Scania and agrees to meet Father Brennan in his room for more details. However, Margaret, choosing not to meet Father Brennan, returns to the monastery. Once back at the monastery, Margaret grows closer to Kalita, but her concerns only increase. Margaret's fears are confirmed when she sees a woman giving birth to a child that belongs to the devil. Shocked and horrified, Margaret faints at the sight, only to later realize that it was all an illusion. Upon regaining consciousness, she finds Angelica showing Kalita disturbing drawings that are far from suitable for children. Margaret knows that something far more sinister is unfolding within the monastery. Angelica scolds Kalita, but instead of getting angry, she kisses Margaret and leaves. This was the third kiss Margaret had received. It was an odd kiss, one that was not fit for a nun, but strangely, no one seemed to care. After a while, Angelica, smiling, tells Kalita that she's going to commit suicide, saying, "This is for you." She laughs and ends her life. This was similar to the first suicide in The Omen, where Damien's babysitter had said before her death that it was all for him. Seeing Angelica, Margaret begins to understand that Brennan was right. She goes to Brennan, where he shows her a photo in which Kalita is seen with members of a church. Margaret looks at the photo and says, "But these people believe in God." Brennan explains that there are two types of churches, one that follows Christ, like you and me, and the other a group that claims to worship God, but uses his name to abuse women in satanic rituals. People stopped going to the church because their faith in God had faded and atheism had spread. To convert people back to faith and instill fear of God, this group wanted to bring forth the Antichrist. Within the church, there was a powerful group that included priests and influential individuals. Brennan tells Margaret that since the child in the photo is Kalita, she is the daughter of Satan. This group plans to rape Satan's daughter, from whom the Antichrist will be born. The Antichrist will bring dark powers, causing fear among people, and those who control him will rule the world. Margaret doesn't trust Brennan at first, so he tells her that Kalita was born on the 6th of June at 6 p.m. Her body will bear the number 666, the mark of Satan. The monks are hiding records, and Brennan needs to find Kalita's file. Kalita's mother was raped by a demonic figure, and if the child inside Kalita is Satan's offspring, they must prevent it from coming into the world. The 6th of June is approaching, and they must act fast. The next day, the monks take the children out into the city. Margaret talks to Kalita about her past, telling her not to be afraid of the lies around her. "I'm just like you," she says, but Kalita becomes angry, thinking Margaret no longer believes in her. At that moment, they see Angelica, and Sister Silva orders everyone to go back to the monastery as riots have broken out in the city. Meanwhile, Margaret is seduced by Dean, which frightens her. Sister Silva decides that Margaret is not yet ready to become a nun and needs to be mentally stable first. On their way back home, Margaret sees Polo, who warns her to check her birthmark, pointing at her head. In his fear, Polo is hit by a truck and dies in a brutal accident, his body split in two. The next day is the ceremony for entering the monastery, and while everyone is busy, Margaret sneaks into a secret passage where she finds many files. As she reads them, she realizes that these people are indeed trying to bring forth the Antichrist, as evidenced by the births of several children, all marked with the number 666. Margaret tries to escape with Kalita and the files. But Sister Silva traps her. The two hide in a room, and before Silva can reach them, Margaret hides the files. When Sister Silva and others try to separate Kalita from Margaret, Margaret sees the mark of 666 on Kalita's mouth, confirming that Brennan's claim was true. At first, Margaret had doubted him, but now she believes him. She notices drawings of Kalita where a demonic figure is raping women, and members of the church are worshiping this demon. These images begin to appear in Margaret's visions, and she sees Angelica again. Gabriel arrives and takes Margaret to Brennan, who had met Gabriel before. Upon reviewing the files, Brennan explains that all the babies born with the 666 mark belong to the demonic figure, who will rape his healthy daughter to bring forth the Antichrist. However, this daughter's body must bear the mark of 666. Margaret checks the photo again, wondering if it's Kalita. In the picture, the child's mark is on the head, but Kalita's mark is inside her mouth, indicating it is not Kalita. As Margaret thoroughly reviews the files, she remembers Polo's warning to check her head. That night, new memories came flooding back. Margaret returns to the moment when she had a drink at the bar with a sense of shame. In fact, after drinking that night, Margaret passed out, after which the people from the monastery had Jackal rape her. The hallucinations Margaret had been experiencing were the truth. The girl in the photo was not someone else, but Margaret herself, with the number 66 marked on her forehead. Jackal had fathered many girls, but the two who were born correctly were Kalita and Margaret. Now it makes sense why Lawrence was so happy to see Margaret. These people had been waiting for this moment. When Margaret looks at the mark, Brennan tells her that Kalita is just a little girl, which is why the church has called Margaret. Kalita is not in danger. It's Margaret's life that is in danger because it is midnight on June 6th. They must save her now. Brennan was taking Margaret to an abortion clinic, but on the way their car crashed. Gabriel dies, and Brennan loses consciousness. Just outside the church, Margaret's water breaks, confirming Father Harry's words about the birth of Satan's child not happening like a normal human birth. The baby in Margaret's womb was about to be born into the world. The people from the church take Margaret to a secret chamber where Lawrence tells her, "You are such a good girl. Do you know what you will give to the world? Because of you, people will begin to come to church." Now it's clear why Lawrence had told Margaret that she would make people start coming to church. He was referring to the Antichrist child growing inside her. From Margaret's womb, 2 children are born, 1 girl and 1 boy. The sight of the boy brings joy to everyone because they have been waiting for this moment for a long time. Margaret tells Lawrence that she wants to see her son, but this was her plan to trick him. She intends to kill the boy by injuring Lawrence, but just then, Lodge intervenes, injuring Margaret and saving the Antichrist's life. Silva then sets the entire chamber on fire, trapping Jackal, Margaret, and her daughter in the flames. But as the fire rages on, Margaret walks through the flames and sees Jackal's death. After Jackal dies, Kalita saves Margaret and her daughter. Margaret's son is then handed over to politician Robert, whose own son died shortly after birth. But this was all Silva's scheme. She had killed Robert's son and switched him with the Antichrist. Now the question arises, why was the child given to Robert? Because Robert is a powerful man, and to rule the world, the Antichrist opened Damien's parents' graves. Why did he find Jackal's skull there? Because Jackal died in the fire. Margaret survives, and she takes Kalita and her daughter far away. One day, Father Brennan visits them, telling Margaret that the people will come for her, and they won't let her live. Her son's name is Damien, and with that, the movie ends. As for Father Harry, he was so scared because, despite knowing everything, he didn't help the women whom Jackal had raped. Regarding the burning of the chamber, Jackal's work was done after the birth of the Antichrist, so everything was burned to ashes. Before dying, Angelica said, "This is all for you." she had said this for the child growing in Margaret's womb. That's a wrap on the First Omen 2024. What a wild ride, right? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a thrilling recap. Stay tuned for more mind-blowing movies right here. See you in the next one.